Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video we are going to be talking about Heatwave 7, which was the first Rivals 2 major that happened after the game's release. Technically you had it at Luminosity Makes Moves Miami as well, and I would definitely consider that a Rivals major, but that was more so of a Smash event. This had Rivals 2 at the forefront and it was an absolute banger. For your top 16 finishes you're going to have MSB, Stroder, Y, and HKP in 13th. Bunthers, Juno, Heals Good, and L Keys in 9th. In 7th place, you're going to have Cheesy Potato and Omar. 5th place is Nbad and Pikmon. 4th place was Switch. 3rd place was Squanto. 2nd place was ZB. And winning the entire thing was CakeAssault. So the first and main thing that we will be looking at today is the character composition for the top 48 of this event. And this was made by Lily Bloom. Their link will be down below, so be sure to check her out. Does a lot of great work for the community. But as you can see, we've got a pretty nice distribution of characters here. Every single one of them represented in this top 48. And let's talk about it. Starting off at the highest tier, each character had 5 reps, the characters being Ranno, Maple, and Kragg. And if I had to guess 3 characters to be in the highest tier, these probably would have been the 3 that I guessed. I think Maple is the best character in the game. The wrap combos that she has are ridiculous. Her pressure is extremely overwhelming. Her advantage day is the strongest in the game, in my opinion, maybe only beaten now by Ranno. It is actually ridiculous what this character is able to do once she gets her hands on you. Her real own downside is going to be her weight plus her recovery being a little bit lackluster, but it's not like you don't have any tools to recover. You have a ton of variety off stage, and you're rarely going to be off stage, if I'm being completely honest with you. Majority of the game is played on stage, and Maple's neutral is ridiculously good. Same thing for Ranno, to be honest, but Ranno also has access to Dart, which is also broken. I think Ranno is like the general consensus of the community as the best character in the game. I don't agree with them on that one, but I will agree that he is very, very broken. I think that Ranno and Maple are the clear top 2 characters in this game, but Kragg is a little bit of an outlier because while I think Kragg is good, he is not like Maple Ranno levels of good, but he is just so easy. The level of entry for Kragg is way lower than any other character in the game. Any 2-2er can pick up the rock and throw it at their opponent over and over and over again for an easy 0 to death. It is not that hard to get good results with Kragg, so it makes sense that he will be prospering at the start of the game, and I honestly don't think Kragg is a character that is going to completely teeter off as the meta progresses, because I do think he is very good, but I would be fairly shocked if he stayed towards the higher echelon. Expect him to drop towards that lower middle level, but the character's definitely got a lot of potential, and as you can see, he's being utilized pretty well already. On to the next tier with 4 players in it, the characters being Clairen and Loxodont. Starting with Loxodont, who I think everyone thinks is the worst character in the game. At least most people seem to share that opinion. So it maybe is a little bit surprising that you would see so many doing well in tournament. But you gotta remember that this is Rivals 2. Everyone is really good. Like, even the bad characters in this game can absolutely do it, especially when the game first comes out and everyone's punish games aren't as strong, versus Loxodont, who doesn't have an easy punish game by any means, but he just has a punish game that doesn't require a lot of hits in between. For every Loxodont combo that's like 5 hits, every other character might be doing like 10 or 15 hits. So because of that, I feel like a lot of Loxodont players are able to utilize the really good tech with Loxodont a little bit earlier than some of the other players of their respective characters. And I think as the game progresses, it's going to be harder and harder for Loxodont. Not because he is going to get worse as a character, but everyone else is just going to get better faster than he is going to get better, if that makes sense. And also, he is a big body character, which definitely does not help as the meta progresses. So I would expect to see less Loxodonts, but I wouldn't expect to see less Clairens. In fact, this is exactly where I would have guessed Clairen to be as well. Not at that super top echelon, but just right underneath. And I think she's going to be a character that, unless she like obviously has significant changes, will stay like that forever, because if you hit all your tippers with Clairen, the opponent is just going to die at 0. But if you don't do that, then you are going to just basically never succeed. So Clairen is always going to be a character that allows people with fundamental spacing skills to just succeed in the meta. They're going to be doing well with Clairen. It's not hard to do so, but I do think that this is a character that if you want to take it to that next level of play, start actually getting into these top 8s, then maybe it's going to be a little bit more difficult to do so. So for your like average mid-level top player, which is a funny thing to say, I think Clairen is like a very predominant character, but maybe as we start getting towards that super top echelon, she could see a little bit of a fall off. Aside from Rungashu, I think is how you say that, that guy is crazy. Next up is going to be the 3 players tier with Zetterburn, Orcane, and Forseburn. Starting off with Zetterburn, who I think is one of the more underrated characters in this game. I will say his special mechanic is probably the weakest mechanic in the game in fire, but it's still very good. It allows you to kill your opponents at like 60-70% with a smash attack, and it's very easy to get fire applied onto your opponent. Half of the moves that you're doing combos with are going to be applying that fire stack. So it's effectively just a residual damage constantly ticking at them over time, unless you hit a strong move, in which case you're going to be able to kill them. But compared to some of the other mechanics in this game, it does seem a little bit more lackluster. But he makes up for it with, like, you know, Shine being the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen, and all of his moves being able to convert into pretty much down air or up air, which are going to allow you to reset the situation and end in smash attacks. This character is ridiculous. His advantage state is amazing. He's got some of the best pressure in the game, so I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him rise just a little bit on the tier list, and I would be pretty shocked if he fell any lower than this. I was honestly a little bit shocked already to see him this low, but I think way higher of this character than the rest of the community, and that honestly might just be me being bad against him. Next up is Forseburn, and I think this character is really underrated. With that being said, he's definitely still towards the lower half of the cast, in my opinion, but I think he's got an insane amount of potential, not even talking about the clone, just with his normal combo routes and ending it with the big boom shine. But when you get the clone involved in the smoke, then things just get a little bit more crazy. And the fact that 3 people were already able to find success with him, I think bodes really well for this character. I think he's one of the hardest, if not the hardest character in the game to play with perfect execution. But if you can pull it off, he has an insane amount of potential. So this is one that I honestly really don't know how he's going to do in the future. It really does depend on the player base, more so than any other character, but I think he's got an insane amount of potential. And the final character in this tier is going to be Orcane, and I think this is the character that I feel the weirdest about. There are 5 characters that I think are definitely better than Orcane, but aside from that, I have no idea how to rank this character. He's got some pretty solid kills, some really solid kill confirms, I should say. If you're able to actually figure out how to get a tipper back here, you're going to be able to steal some stocks incredibly early. Same thing with a sweet spot forward air, and also that sweet spot forward air, just forward air in general, gives him some incredible mobility. When you're off stage as well, you're able to B-reverse the neutral special and use the forward air to actually recover on stage, sending yourself like a rocket at the opponent. The bubbles are super annoying to deal with, constantly interrupting you in the neutral, and Orcane is able to make pressure with them as well. It's kind of like a pseudo Tegel in a weird way. I think Orcane is good. I don't know if he's going to go worse. I don't know if he's going to get better. I genuinely have no idea the future of this character. So I'm just going to leave it at he's really funny and I like him. Sorry, that's the analysis that you're getting. Onto the 2 players here, which is going to have Fleet in it. And this is where I would expect Fleet to be. I don't think she's one of the better characters in this game. I would say she is towards the lower end, but she's also a character with, I think, a lot of potential. And she has Float, which is a broken mechanic. She also has her timer mechanic, which I think has a decent amount of potential in the combo routes that you're able to take with it. But I think Float is like the main thing there. It's going to give you amazing micro spacing, which we already saw at this event. It's going to make your combo potential a lot better, allowing you to actually carry people off stage. You quite literally carry people off stage with that forward air of hers. It also helps that the guy that won the event was also playing Fleet, so we had a ton of footage seeing this character look absolutely ridiculous. So I think it makes sense that she is towards the lower half of the cast. I could see her punching up, absolutely, but I would be pretty surprised if she made a significant rise in the ranks, aside from a couple people just doing well with her. And the final character that we got to talk about in the 1-player tier is going to be Wrastor. And this is the one that surprised me the most, because I think Wrastor is in that top 3, up there with Maple and Ranno, undisputed in that echelon of the best in this game. But results clearly don't agree with me on that. And I think the reasoning for that would be that Wrastor is a very unorthodox character. Taking the ground and aerial aspects of the game and just reversing them doesn't really work for a lot of people, myself included. He's very unintuitive to pick up, and once you do pick him up, some of his combo routes are extremely difficult. You have to be hit-falling pretty much every single move that you're doing in order to find success with this character. So I think it makes sense that there weren't a ton of Wrastor players running around and finding success, but I don't think it's going to stay like this. Come 1, 2, 3 more events, you're going to start seeing Wrastor players pop up like the plague. So only one of them making it into the top 48 this time around, but I think that's something that is going to change, and change rapidly at that. Now that we've gone over character composition, we can move on to talking about the main bracket. And I just want to say that we're not going to be going over all of the top 8. Like I said at the start of the video, this is not your normal recap. So if there's a player that I left out, and I probably will, just leave a comment down below and I'll be sure to tell you how they did, and sub while you're down there. But there's a couple people that I handpicked just because they had interesting runs that I wanted to talk about. And the first one is going to be and bad. They end up losing to Switch before the top 8 qualifier and end up beating 3 players in a row to get into top 8, starting off with Gengar, the clairen player. Then they beat 2 kragg players in a row in MSB in Bunthers. And I gotta say, I think that matchup is pretty miserable for kragg. You definitely have tools here, especially because you're so strong against Maple. And if Maple ever wraps against literally anyone, but especially against kragg, she is going to explode. But once Maple gets their hands on kragg, the advantage state is literally just over for that character. There's pretty much nothing that you can do, especially if she has a wrap on you and a plant on the ground. I don't even want to think about that. And once in top 8, Nbad kept that streak up of beating another kragg player in Cheesy Potato. So this losers run is essentially a win over a clairen player and then beating 3 kragg players in a row, but some of the best kragg players on the planet at this point, and they end up losing that run back to Switch as well. So double eliminated by the Zetterburn, getting revenge for all of those kraggs. But the first set was game 4, the second set was game 5, so managed to make some adaptations. They're very impressive run from Nbad. They're going to be our highest placing Maple player of the event, and they should be feeling pretty good about that run. The next player that I want to talk about is Squanto, and their run is particularly interesting because without Squanto this event, there was a very real possibility that the first seed got first, the second seed got second, the third seed got third, and the fourth seed got fourth, and that's just kind of boring. We don't really want that to happen now, do we? Squanto ends up beating Juno in the winner side before falling to ZB, then they beat Elkies to qualify to top 8. Once in top 8, they beat Omar, which is going to be loxodont ranno, and I do think that is a very difficult matchup for loxodont. The only real boon for loxodont in that matchup is the fact that he's able to very easily destroy the ranno darts with that massive sword or that massive axe. But also he could just throw another like 6 darts before loxodont can really do anything. And the second ranno gets his hands on loxodont, it is literally just over. So definitely a tough matchup there. Then Squanto went on to beat Pikmon, which was the 4th seed of the event. So this is where the story, the arc, the seeders, their narrative, everything started to unfold. Squanto broke the mold here with that 3-0 over Pikmon, and he continued that momentum with a 3-0 over Switch as well, sending the 3rd and 4th seed down just 1 placement earlier than they were supposed to. And right after that, he ends up losing to ZB in the losers finals, manages to take a game off of, but ultimately falls to the kragg. But still, Squanto, without him, this event would have gone pretty much exactly as planned, and he was the one that threw a wrench in it, made the upsets over some of these top players, and you gotta give him props for the run. Also, the only Rondo player that managed to get into top 8, despite people claiming this character to be the best in the game. And the final thing that we gotta talk about is also the most interesting thing to talk about. We saved the best for last over here. We gotta talk about CakeAssault's run. His perfect run. No games dropped. That is a statement if I have ever heard one. He does it all with Fleet as well. Well, he ends up playing Forseburn in some of his pools games, but I'm pretty confident that he would have been able to win those with Fleet as well. Maybe they were catching on to the Fleet though. Who knows? Maybe they got some crazy adaptations, but he stays on the Fleet for the sets that matter and the sets that don't matter, and he wins them all the same. 3-0s Docked, 3-0s Cheesy Potato to get into top 8. Once in the top 8, 3-0s Pikmon, 3-0 ZB, and 3-0 ZB once again in the grand finals. Just pure domination from CakeAssault at this tournament. Now, I will say, in everyone else's favor, I think that Fleet destroys kragg. Absolutely bodies that character. Easily his worst matchup. And you did have CakeAssault fighting a lot of very good kragg players throughout this tournament, but he also fought the best Forseburn that I've ever seen and succeeded. He also fought a really good clairen and succeeded. So clearly it wasn't just him beating on a character, it was him being the best player at the venue, probably the best player in the world if we're being honest. The way he looked here, I feel like it's hard to at least not put him in the conversation. CakeAssault won this event with domination, and I'm really interested to see if he's going to be able to keep that up. And with that, I thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. The sport has been absolutely unreal as of late. I know this was a little bit different of a recap, but I didn't feel like I had enough detail to give you guys a full-length recap on all of the players, and I still wanted to talk about this event because it was an absolute banger. So I hope this was a good in-between ground. Let me know what you guys think, and I hope to see you on my next Rivals 2 video. Bye-bye!